Okay, so in this demo, we are going to just really quickly wrap it up, and I'm going to show you how you can get like a development or a practice folder started, and we'll make a basic page. So I'm going to go ahead real quickly, and I want to show you something that I did before I started the demo. Is we had a shortcut here, and it was just a normal looking folder. What I did was I went and found an icon on the web, and you can see I kind of like icons. It helps me identify things pretty quickly. So it's really up to you as to whether or not you want to do this. But if you do, you can go find an icon on the web, and and you can also just on newer versions of the Mac OS, you can just find a picture. You can open it, let's say in preview, just double click the picture, select it, and copy it, and then any folder that you might like. Let's say that you want this folder to have an icon. What you can do is you can right click it and say get info, and then if you select this little icon right here in the top left of the get info window, you can use Command V as in Victor. You can use Command V to paste that selected picture that you've already copied into your clipboard, and it will basically use it to take this picture on this file. All right, and that's how you can apply an icon to a folder. So that's what I did. I'm not going to do it for this one, but that's what I did for my htdocs folder, so that it's easy to identify. And I think I'm going to drag it down here towards the bottom or something. And now if I click it, it's got these things in it, and I can go and clean that up if I want. I can open it in the Finder, easy enough. Something else that you may see me do later in the semester in demos, just so you are aware of it, is, and you're not confused, is I also happen to keep a little folder here that has a bunch of shortcuts in it. I like to organize my stuff. Okay, so if I go here, and you might see that I have a shortcut to htdocs for MAMP, and also a shortcut for htdocs for XAMPP. All right, so I might sometimes choose this one, or every once in a while I also might choose to go to MAMP, and you'll notice that in some of the other demonstrations I might have been using MAMP. It really doesn't matter whether you're using MAMP or XAMPP or whatever, as long as you've got this localhost. They're all going to resolve to localhost. That's what's important. So now that we've got the shortcut stuff figured out, okay, and by the way, this shortcut right here is the exact same as this shortcut. All right, just duplicated shortcuts, okay. So what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and open Dreamweaver, and I'm going to make, or whatever code editor you want to use, I'm going to make a new file, and I'm going to go ahead and create a PHP. Shouldn't have saved it as a template before, but I'll make a PHP file, and I'm not using any kind of template. I'm just using it as a blank page, and I'm also using an HTML5 doc type. So let's go here, and what I want to do is I want to go ahead and make what's going to be referred to as the basic page. So I'm going to change my title here, and we'll say basic page, and what I want to do is put some PHP tags in to start, like this. So it's open caret question mark PHP, and then the ending tag is question mark end caret. And then real quickly, I'm going to go up in my preferences in Dreamweaver, and I'm going to make this bigger for the purposes of the video demonstration. Also, this is good for you to know too. If you have a hard time seeing and you want to customize your settings and stuff, you can go to where it says fonts in the preferences, and you can, where it says code view, you can change the size, and let's see how 16 looks, and also you can change the font that you want to use. I'm using Source Code Pro. I think that one looks really good, and so now it's nice and big for demonstrations. And there's some other settings that you could also look through here in terms of CSS and so forth. And this, let's do this later. Okay, so where I've got CSS styles. I use shorthand for my CSS. I'm going to use it for everything, and I'm going to use it according to the settings above. So I use shorthand for everything. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then you're going to be on a little bit of a learning curve, but it's not, you know, a huge thing. So there are a bunch of other things you can do here too. One of the things I'm also going to look at is preview in browser. Here's the thing, we're not really going to preview stuff in the browser in this class. You might be used to doing that from some other classes, but we're not really going to do that in this one. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and close this. And this is going to be just a regular old basic page. And what I can do here is I can just go ahead and say echo, and I'm going to put a quotation mark, and I'm going to say basic page. And then I'm going to end the quotation mark, and I'm going to terminate it with a semicolon. This is a command, okay? So we have echo is the beginning of the command, and then there's a space that separates the command from the argument that it's going to be passed into it. And then what it's going to echo is to say something back to the browser. Basically, it's to say it to the screen, to print it to the browser. And when I say to print to the browser, what I mean by that is that it's going to say it into the HTML code. So I could say something like echo paragraph tags or something like that, right? And what you're going to see on the page is this, because it's going to put paragraph tags inside the HTML. So let me save this. And because, and I'm going to save this, by the way, as I'll call it basic.php, and the PHP part is very important. So let's go ahead and save it as basic PHP. And I'm going to, instead of putting it directly into htdocs, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a folder here. I'm going to hit new folder inside of my htdocs folder. And I'm going to call it dev. You can call it sandbox, dev, you know, practice, whatever you want to call it. But dev stands for development, and it's something that's really commonly used for practice files for developers, and it's also really short and easy to type whenever you're constantly having to go and look at the URL. So I'm going to create a folder in my htdocs that's called dev, and that's where I'm going to save basic PHP. And the reason I'm doing that is because then I can always open basic PHP, and then I can just save it as something else and get going. Okay, so and then there's this line up here that says no syntax errors. We're going to get to error reporting later. Right now, don't worry about it. Okay, so we've got our basic PHP page. I'm going to save it. If I go into my browser now and I go to localhost, refresh the page, and you see here's dev. I can go to my basic page, and you see here it says basic page. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the source code. Here's the thing, I'm in Safari right now. All right, it automatically defaulted to Safari when it first opened up. And if you don't see this where it says develop and you want to use Safari, then what you need to do is you need to go into Safari preferences, and then you need to go to the very last thing called advanced. And then there's this checkbox down here that says show develop menu in menu bar. I strongly recommend that you enable this because there are some features in Safari that are actually really good. And you can do this in Windows too, even though Windows users probably aren't watching this right now. And basically, it allows you to do things in Safari that maybe you can't even do in the Chrome inspector. I usually like Chrome, preferably. I typically use Chrome for everything, but this now will enable this to show up, and you might have to restart your browser, but it gives you all these development options. So I could say show web inspector, for instance, and what it does is it allows me to see, you know, the source code down here. And the other thing I could have done is I could have said, you know, show page resources, and you know, all these things. I can disable images, so you can see what everything's going to look like. You can also change the user agent so that it will try to render it the way that one of these other user agents or browsers would actually render it, so that you can get a better sense of how something is going to show up. So that's a really good thing. That's a really good thing to know. And then you can also choose to open it with one of your other browsers. Anyway, so what I wanted to show you is see here inside the body, it's showing that it did in fact echo those paragraph tags where it says P and then basic page and then end P. Well, you don't see that here, of course, because as you know with HTML, you don't actually see the tags in the display view. You just see it in the source code. So if we go back and look here, you know, if I removed those tags, it wouldn't have any proper HTML formatting, but I can save that, come back here, refresh the page, and now you see the tags are gone, but it still says basic page here. It's just that it wouldn't be able to be properly formatted, you know, for good markup. But anyway, so I'll just go ahead and leave those there. What the heck? It doesn't matter. You don't have to. But now we have a basic page to start from. So later when we go to do our error reporting or anything else, we can always start from this page, and then we can do a save as, and then at least we've got our doc type and we've got our PHP tags already inserted and so forth. Okay. One other thing that I want to do too is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close this. It's saved, and then I'm going to go into my htdocs. I'm going to say open in Finder. And I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I think probably what I don't need is I don't need this webalizer. I could either I could say move to trash, or I'm going to stick it in the XAMPP original files. And it's going to ask me if that's okay, so I'll say yes. Okay, so there it is. And then I have my XAMPP folder, and then I've got my info.php, and then I've got my dev. And so that is, you know, your basic file structure. So whenever you go into your htdocs, you'll be able to find these. And in some of the other demos, you might not have this XAMPP folder or the XAMPP original files if the demo had previously been done using the MAMP web server installation, and that's not a big deal. As I said before, don't worry about it. Some of them may have been done with MAMP, some may be done with XAMPP. Either way, what's really important to reiterate is they're all going to resolve back to the same place when you go to your web browser. It's just really about where it's located on your actual computer so that you know where to put your files. But the thing that's useful to know is that no matter what, any of the examples that I will be using, they're all going to use a folder called htdocs as the web serving directory that's located on your computer. Where that htdocs folder might be in a slightly different pathway, but they're all going to be in something called htdocs. Okay, and any demo that you might watch that shows you how to set something up, it's going to tell you where htdocs lives. Okay, so that should do it, and the next thing probably that you're going to need to watch is to get moving into the error reporting so that you at least understand how that stuff works and you don't, you know, get intimidated by that whenever errors happen.